The market was alive with noise, voices rising and falling. Traders shouting about their goods. The smell of roasted meat mixed with dust in the air. But in the middle of it all was a girl, thin as a shadow, her bones pressing through her skin. She moved slowly, her feet dragging as if the ground itself was pulling her down. Her eyes searched the stalls, not for clothes or treasures, but only for food. Anything to keep her alive another day. The villagers noticed her. And instead of pity, laughter followed. One of them threw a piece of rotten fruit at her feet and said, "Here, dirt should eat dirt." Others laughed louder, some pointing, some clapping as if her misery was a game. The girl bent down, her hands shaking. She picked up the rotten fruit and brought it to her lips. But before she could take a bite, a heavy boot kicked it away. Another voice shouted, "Not even worthy." Of Scrap's look at her beg, the laughter roared again. Her stomach growled, louder than the voices, louder than her shame. But she stayed quiet. She had learned that crying only made them laugh harder. Her lips stayed pressed. Her eyes looked at the ground. She wished she could vanish. Children ran around her, tossing pebbles at her back, chanting cruel songs, calling her worthless. She stumbled forward, every step a fight. Her arms hugged her ribs as though she could hold herself together. The sun was hot. The dust clung to her skin. Her throat was dry. She had not tasted clean water in days. She saw a bucket near a stall and moved toward it. Hope flickered in her chest. But before her hand could touch it, a man kicked the bucket over, spilling the water into the dirt. "Not for you, cursed thing," he spat. The girl's knees gave way. She fell to the ground, her breath short. The crowd above her blurred. Her ears filled with the sound of laughter. It was like a storm of cruelty, crushing her spirit piece by piece. She tried to crawl away. Dragging herself across the dirt, the ground burned under her skin. Her lips whispered words only she could hear. "Please, just a bite, just a sip." But no one listened. No one cared. An old woman nearby muttered, "She will die soon. Best for all of us." Another replied, "Good, less filth on our streets." The crowd nodded. Some laughed again. None showed mercy. The girl curled into herself, dust sticking to her tears. Her body trembled from weakness. She felt her heart slowing, her breaths shallow. The world around her spun. She thought maybe this was the end. Maybe this was what they wanted. The market carried on, traders still shouting, buyers still laughing. The world moved as if her suffering was nothing, as if her life had no weight at all. She remembered when she was younger, when her mother's hands held her close, when food was shared, when voices were gentle. But those days were gone, her family gone. Only the laughter of strangers remained. Her body shook harder, her lips cracked. She whispered again, "I don't want to die." But her voice was drowned by the jeers. One child bent down and poked her with a stick. "Get up, dirt girl, dance for us," he said. The others laughed, but she could not move. Her strength was gone, her vision dimmed, shadows stretched across her eyes. But then, through the blur, she noticed something different. A figure not laughing, not mocking, just watching. The figure stood taller than the villagers, broader, with clothes that did not belong to this place, his eyes fixed on her. Not with hate, not with laughter, but something else. The girl's heart beat once more, faint but real. Her lips parted. Though no words came, she wondered, why is he looking at me like that? The villagers had not noticed him yet. They were too busy laughing at her, too busy enjoying her suffering. But his eyes never left her broken frame. For the first time in many days, she felt seen, not as dirt, not as a curse, but as something alive. Her body still weak, her spirit almost gone, but deep inside. A small flame lit again, because maybe, just maybe, She was not completely invisible. The crowd's laughter continued, but somewhere in the noise, a silence began to form. Not around them, but inside her, the silence of waiting. The silence before something changed, and as her head rested on the ground, her eyes still locked with his, she thought, is this the moment my story ends, or the moment it begins? The market noise still echoed. The girl lay weak on the dirt, her body trembling. But her fading eyes stayed fixed on the tall figure who had stopped to watch her. He was different from the rest. His clothes carried dust from long roads. His boots were worn from travel, his face marked by the sun, but his eyes were sharp and steady, not cruel, not laughing, but filled with something the girl had almost forgotten. It was pity, it was anger, it was humanity. The human stood silent for a moment, his jaw tight as he listened to the crowd mocking her. Children still threw stones, women spat words of hatred. Men laughed with their chests wide, but the human's eyes never left the fragile girl on the ground. She tried to lift her head, but her strength failed. Her cheek pressed against the dirt, tears sliding into the dust. Still, she looked at him. Searching for any sign of mercy, he stepped forward. Slow but firm, the crowd's laughter softened as some noticed him. Whispers spread, a human. Here. Another muttered, he'll walk away like the rest. Wait and see. But he did not. The human's hand curled into a fist. He saw the girl's ribs showing under her skin. Her lips cracked and dry, her fingers too thin, and something inside him refused to stay silent. One man from the crowd sneered, "Don't look at her. Stranger, she's cursed. Dirt should stay in dirt." Another added with a smirk, "Touch her and you'll be cursed too." The human did not reply, his eyes still on the girl, her weak body trying to breathe, her chest rising slow, her eyes wide as if asking him, "Why are you still looking at me?" He knelt down, his shadow falling across her broken frame. The villagers gasped. No one had dared get that close before. The girl's breath caught in her throat. She blinked, certain she was dreaming. His voice was low but steady. "Can you hear me?" he asked. She moved her lips, but no sound came. Still, her eyes told him yes. She heard. The villagers began to murmur. "He's mad. He doesn't know what she is. Leave her, stranger. She's not worth a crumb." But the human's eyes hardened. He looked up at them, his gaze sharp. "Like steel, she's a person," he said. "Calm but strong." The crowd laughed louder, the sound ugly. "A person? That's no person. That's filth," a man shouted. "If you take her, you take her curse with you." But the human ignored them. His hand reached out, slow, careful, as if touching something fragile. The girl flinched at first, unused to gentle hands, but when his fingers brushed her arm, warmth spread through her cold skin. Her heart beat faster, weak but alive. She whispered in a voice no louder than a breath. "Why?" The word broke apart on her lips. But he understood, his eyes softened. "Because no one deserves this," he said. The crowd jeered. Some threw stones toward him, but he stood. Lifting the girl gently into his arms, her weight was almost nothing lighter than he expected. She gasped at the sudden strength holding her, a strength that felt safe. The villagers shouted, "Put her down, human. You'll regret this. She is nothing, worthless." But the human walked forward, his steps steady, his eyes daring anyone to stop him. The girl's head rested against his chest. She listened to his heartbeat, strong and steady. So different from the cruel voices she had always heard. For the first time in years, her eyes closed, not in fear, but in relief. The human's mind burned with anger. He could not understand how they laughed at her, how they watched her starve. He had seen war, seen monsters, but this cruelty felt worse. This was not survival. This was choice. He looked back once, his eyes sharp, his voice low. Shame on all of you. The words struck harder than any weapon. Silence fell for a moment. And in that silence, he walked away with her. The girl trembled in his arms, afraid it was only a dream, afraid he would drop her. But his grip stayed firm, protective, his warmth surrounding her like a shield. Through the corner of her eye, she saw the crowd still watching, some whispering, some angry. But she did not care. For the first time, she felt something she thought she had lost forever: hope. The human carried her past the stalls, past the whispers, past the laughter that grew weaker the farther they went. He did not look back again. His eyes stayed forward. His heart steady, his steps unshaken. The girl wanted to speak again, to ask him more. But her voice was too weak, so she only whispered one word: safe. And then, exhausted, she let the darkness take her. Not from fear, but from the weight, lifting off her soul. The human looked down at her, his grip tightening just slightly, and he whispered back, "Yes, you're safe now." But even as he walked away, he knew the eyes of the village were still on him. He knew this choice had made enemies. He knew danger would follow, yet he also knew he would not turn back. Because in that moment, her life was his responsibility. Tia had already decided he would not let her die. The human carried the frail alien girl through the market, each step heavy with the weight of angry stares. Whispers followed him like shadows. "Fool, he's cursed now," someone muttered. Another hissed, "He'll regret it soon." But his grip on her did not falter. The girl's head rested weakly against his chest. Her breath shallow, her eyes half closed. But she could still hear the cruel voices around them, voices that had haunted her all her life. Now they mocked not only her, but the one who dared to touch her. The human's jaw clenched. He had heard such voices before on other worlds. Voices of cowards who laughed at the suffering of the weak. He hated that sound. It burned inside him. Like fire, one of the villagers, a tall man with scarred arms, stepped in front of him, blocking the path. "Put her down," the man demanded, his voice filled with false authority. "She is dirt. She does not belong with you." The human stopped. His boots planted firmly on the dusty ground. He looked at the scarred man with calm eyes. "Eyes that hid a storm move," he said, his voice steady, not raised, but strong enough to silence those closest. The man sneered, "Or what? Human," he spat at the ground. "You think your kind can break our laws. You think she deserves life." The crowd gathered tighter, their laughter low, waiting for the human to bend, waiting for him to bow. But instead, he shifted the girl gently in his arms, her body trembling, her eyes fluttering open for a moment. She saw his face above her, not afraid, not weak. And her lips moved faintly. "Don't," she whispered. "They'll hurt you." He shook his head slightly. "Enough for her to see." "Not today," he answered, his voice like stone. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the human stepped forward. The scarred man held his ground, but the human did not slow. Their eyes locked. A silent challenge between cruelty and defiance. The villagers muttered nervously. "He won't do it. He'll step back. No human is that foolish." But when the human's shoulder brushed past the scarred man, pushing him aside without hesitation, silence swallowed the market. The girl's weak heart thudded. In her chest, she had never seen anyone stand against them, never seen anyone look at her with defiance instead of disgust. Tears stung her eyes, not of pain, but of something she barely remembered: hope. The scarred man's face twisted with rage. His hand shot out, gripping the human's shoulder. "You dare," he growled. But in the blink of an eye, the human's free hand caught his wrist. His grip like iron, the man gasped, his strength useless against the human's calm power. The crowd stepped back, murmurs louder now, some afraid, some eager to see blood. But The human only tightened his hold enough to make the scarred man stumble, then released him with a sharp shove. The man staggered backward. Falling into the dust, the human stood tall, his voice carrying clear. "She is not dirt," he said, his words cutting through the silence. "She is alive, and I will not let her die." The crowd froze. Never had anyone spoken like that. Never. Had anyone dared to defend her? The villagers looked at one another, uncertain, their laughter gone. Replaced with unease, the girl in his arms trembled, her lips parting, a single word escaping. "Why?" she asked, her voice faint, broken. "Why me?" He looked down at her, his eyes softening, though his stance stayed strong. "Because no. One deserves to be treated this way," he answered, his voice low but filled with truth. Behind them, the scarred man rose. His pride wounded more than his body. His glare burned with hatred. "This isn't over," he spat. But the human didn't turn back. He carried her forward, his steps unshaken. The villagers whispered again, some mocking, some fearful. "He'll bring ruin on himself. She'll curse him. No good can come from this." But still none stepped forward. None dared to stop him. The girl felt his heart beat against her cheek, strong, steady, nothing like the cruel rhythms of the crowd. She wanted to believe his words, but doubt clawed at her heart. After all, everyone before had abandoned her. Why would he be different? And yet his arms did not let go. His eyes did not turn away. His steps did not falter as they moved farther. From the market, the laughter grew faint, replaced by whispers carried on the wind. The human knew this act had marked him, knew he had crossed a line he could never uncross, but he also knew he would do it again without regret. For in that moment, holding the girl the world had called worthless, he had made a silent vow. A vow to protect, a vow to fight, a vow to defy. And though the girl could not yet see it, though fear still weighed heavy on her fragile heart, her story had changed forever because one human had refused to look away. The human walked away from the market, carrying the fragile alien girl in his arms. The noise of the cruel crowd slowly faded behind him, but their whispers still lingered in the air. Like poison, the girl's eyes were half closed, her body light as if it had no weight at all, her breath shallow, her voice gone. She did not know if she was dreaming or truly being carried by someone who cared. The human steps were steady, each one defying the eyes that had mocked him. He did not look back. He did not slow. He carried her through winding streets until the houses grew fewer and the path turned quieter. At last, he reached a small shelter made of stone and wood, simple, weathered by time, but safe from the laughter of the village. He pushed the door open with his shoulder and stepped inside. The air inside was cooler. Shadows lay across the floor. A small fire burned weakly in the corner. The smell of herbs mixed with smoke. It was not much, but it was his, and now it would be hers too. He set her gently down on a thin bed made of cloth and straw. She gasped faintly at the touch of softness beneath her, for she was used to the hard ground, used to sleeping where dust and stones cut into her skin. Her eyes opened wider for the first time. Though weak, she looked around the room. The walls were bare. A table stood against the corner, a pot half full of water rested near the fire. Her lips trembled. "Why here?" she whispered, her voice a broken sound. The human crouched beside her, his eyes calm but firm. "Because you need a place to live, not a place to die," he said. His words simple but carrying weight. Her tears slipped down her cheeks. She shook her head. "I don't deserve this," she whispered. "I'm dirt to them, worthless." But he stopped her, his hand lifting slightly, his voice sharper. "Don't ever say that." The girl froze, her breath caught. No one had ever silenced her despair before. No one had ever told her she was wrong for believing she was nothing. The human turned, took the pot of water. and poured it into a small wooden cup. He returned and held it to her lips. She hesitated, her eyes wide, as if even water was too much kindness to accept. "Drink," he said. Gently but firm, she obeyed. Her cracked lips touching the cup, the water slid down her dry throat, each sip like fire and ice at once. She coughed, then drank again, unable to stop, tears rolling with the water as life touched her veins. When the cup was empty, she leaned back, her chest rising and falling faster, her eyes blinking in disbelief. "Why?" she whispered again, her voice trembling. The human only said, "Because no one should suffer this way." He moved to the fire, stirring the pot that simmered faintly. He had boiled roots and herbs earlier. Not much, but enough to make broth. He poured it into a small bowl. The smell of food filled the air, weak but real. The girl's stomach growled painfully at the scent. Her hands shook as she tried to sit up. But she was too weak. Her body would not obey. The human returned, sat beside her, and lifted the spoon to her lips. Her eyes widened again. She wanted to refuse. Pride and shame battled inside her, but hunger won. She opened her mouth slightly. The first taste touched her tongue, warm, bitter, yet full of life. She ate, spoon after spoon, tears streaming with every bite. She tried to speak between mouthfuls. "I don't understand. It's why you care." But he only shook his head. "You don't need to understand. Just eat." She obeyed, each bite filling her emptiness, her body trembling with the shock of having food after so long. When the bowl was empty, she leaned back, her hand weakly touching her chest. "I thought I would die today," she whispered. The human looked at her, his eyes steady. "Not while I'm here," he said. For a long time, silence filled the shelter, broken only by the crackle of the fire. The girl stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. Her heart caught between fear and hope. She wanted to trust him, but fear whispered that he would leave her too. Just like the others, she turned her head slowly, her voice soft. "They will hate you for this," she said. "They will come. They will hurt you." The human shrugged, his voice calm. "Let them hate. Let them come," he answered. "I am not afraid." Her lips trembled. She had never met anyone like him. Never seen anyone choose her life over their safety. She whispered one last question, almost afraid to hear the answer. "Why me?" He paused, his eyes meeting hers. And then he said, "Because you deserve to live." Her heart broke at those words, not from pain, but from the weight of kindness she had never known. She closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe. Maybe, just maybe, she was not worthless. The fire flickered, the shelter warm. Outside the night settled in, but inside, for the first time, the alien girl was safe. The night passed slowly in the small shelter. The alien girl slept for the first time without the cold stones biting her skin. Her body weak, but her breathing calmer. The human sat near the fire, awake, listening to the crackle of flames and the silence beyond the walls, but the village was not silent while she rested in safety. Whispers spread like fire in dry grass. "They say the human took her in," one voice muttered near the well. Another replied, "Foolish man, he does not know she brings misfortune." Others nodded, their eyes darting as if the very thought of her cursed blood would stain them. At the tavern, men slammed cups on wooden tables. "He defies us," one spat. "He dares to lift filth from the dirt and treat it like life." Another hissed, "He will regret it. The girl is poison. She always was." The old women shook their heads, whispering to children, "Stay away from him, stay away from her. Nothing good will come of this." Fear mixed with hatred, and hatred grew sharper with every word. By morning, the whole village knew. Every stall, every doorway, every corner carried the same sentence. The human has taken her. And with it came anger, jealousy, fear. Inside the shelter, the girl stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. The smell of firewood filled her nose. The warmth of a blanket covered her shoulders. She blinked in disbelief. She had not felt this kind of warmth in years. The human turned, seeing her awake. "How do you feel?" he asked, his voice steady. She hesitated, her lips trembling. "Alive," she whispered. The word felt strange, almost too heavy for her to carry. He gave her water again, guiding the cup to her lips. She drank with small gulps, then leaned back. Her eyes filled with something between fear and gratitude. But even as she breathed in safety, she remembered the voices, the laughter, the cruelty. Her hands shook, her heart beat fast. "They will come," she whispered. "They will not forgive." The human met her eyes, his voice calm. "Let them come," he said. But she shook her head, panic in her voice. "No, you don't understand. They hate me. They will hate you too. They will make you suffer because of me." Her words cracked. Her body trembling, she tried to sit up. "I should leave. I should go. I can't let you be destroyed for me." The human placed a steady hand on her shoulder, keeping her still. "You will not leave," he said, his tone firm. "Not while you cannot stand. Not while you cannot live without help." Her eyes filled with tears. "But why?" she whispered. "Why risk everything for someone like me?" He looked at her with the same steady eyes. "Because your life matters," he answered. Outside, footsteps moved past the shelter, voices carried in the air, whispers grew bolder. "That's where he hides her," one voice said. "He thinks he is stronger than all of us." Another replied, "He will see soon." The girl heard them, her heart pounded. Fear wrapped around her like chains. She clutched the blanket tighter. "Do you hear them?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "They want me gone. I should go before they hurt you." But the human shook his head, his voice calm, but like iron. "They will not decide your worth." The day passed, but the whispers did not fade. They grew louder, angrier, like waves gathering strength before a storm. By evening, the girl sat quietly near the fire, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes staring at the flames. Do you think they will try to hurt us?" she asked softly. The human did not lie. "Yes," he said. "But I will not let them." Her lips parted, her eyes wide. She had never heard such certainty spoken for her sake, not from anyone, not ever. She felt the weight of those words settle deep inside her chest. Still, her fear whispered louder. "They may kill you," she said, her tears sliding again. "And I cannot bear that. Not for me." The human leaned closer, his voice low, steady. "Unshaken, listen to me," he said. "Your life is not a curse. Your life is not dirt. They may hate, they may whisper, but I will stand." His words wrapped around her like a shield, and for the first time, she believed him. Even if the whole village came with anger and fire, she believed he would not abandon her. Outside, a group of villagers gathered, torches in their hands, voices low but sharp. "We cannot allow this," one growled. "The human must choose cast her out or face us all." The others nodded, their faces hard. The whispers had grown into a storm. The storm was moving toward the shelter, inside. The girl's eyes widened as she felt the heat of torches flicker through the cracks of the walls. Her voice shook. "They are here," she whispered. The human stood, his eyes calm, his fists tightening. He stepped toward the door, his voice low but strong. "Then it's time they see." The girl clutched the blanket, fear and hope fighting inside her heart. She whispered a single word under her breath. "Please." The door rattled with fists. Voices shouted from outside. "Bring her out. End this filth. Choose your side, human." The fire inside the shelter burned low. But in the human's eyes, a brighter fire burned, one that no crowd could extinguish. And for the first time, the girl wondered if maybe he was not just protecting her. Maybe he was ready to fight for her. The night grew darker, but outside the shelter, the torches glowed bright. The shadows of the villagers stretched across the ground, their voices rising in anger. The human stood at the door, his hand resting on the wooden frame, his eyes steady, his chest rising and falling with calm breaths. Behind him, the alien girl trembled on the bed, clutching the blanket as the shouts grew louder. "Bring her out!" a man roared, his voice shaking with hatred. "She is cursed. She will ruin us all." Another voice followed. "You think you can defy us, human? You will pay for this." The human opened the door slowly, stepping into the night. The sudden light of torches lit his face. The crowd gasped as he appeared, tall and unshaken. The girl's fragile form still hidden inside. Dozens of eyes glared at him, filled with anger, filled with fear. Some carried stones, some carried sticks, but all carried the same demand: give her up. The human's gaze swept across them, his voice calm but strong. "No," he said. The crowd roared in disbelief. "No," one shouted. "You dare stand against us for her?" Another spat. "She is nothing. She is dirt." The human's jaw tightened. His voice rose louder, sharper. "She is not dirt," he said, his words cutting through their noise like steel. "She is alive, and she will not be thrown away." Gasps spread, murmurs followed. Never had anyone spoken like this. Never had anyone dared to speak against them for her. The girl inside heard every word, her heart beating fast, tears in her eyes. The scarred man from the market stepped forward, his torch burning high. "You think you're brave," he sneered, "but you are one man against all of us." The human did not flinch, his eyes locked on the man. "Then all of you should be ashamed," he said. The scarred man growled, his pride burning. "Step aside, or we'll take her by force," he threatened. The human stepped forward instead, his shadow stretching across the dirt, his fists clenched, his voice steady as iron. "You will not touch her," the villager shouted, anger boiling, but none moved closer. His stance was too firm, his eyes too fierce. He stood like a wall they could not break. Inside, the girl rose weakly from the bed, her body trembling. But something stronger moved her now. She staggered too. The doorway clutching the frame, her voice faint but clear. "Stop," she said. The crowd turned, eyes widening. For the first time she stood before them, not crawling in the dirt, not begging for scraps, but standing, her thin body shaking. Yet her voice stronger than ever. "I am not dirt," she said. Her words cracked, but carried. "I am alive." The crowd froze. Silence fell heavy. The torches flickered. Their hatred wavered. No one had ever heard her speak like this. The scarred man's face twisted in rage. "Lies," he shouted. "You are filth. You always will be." He raised his stick to strike, but before he could step closer, the human moved. His hand caught the stick mid-swing. He snapped it in two with a sharp crack, throwing the pieces to the ground. The crowd gasped. His voice thundered now. "Enough," he said. "This ends tonight." The silence that followed was heavier than stone. The villagers shifted nervously, their anger losing strength, their fear rising. None dared step forward again. The girl's eyes widened, her chest tight. She had never seen anyone fight for her, never heard anyone shout for her. In that moment, the chains of shame around her heart began to break. The scarred man glared, but he stepped back, his pride broken, his courage drained. The villagers looked at each other, their whispers weak, uncertain. The human stood tall, his arms shielding. The girl behind him, his voice steady. "If you want to harm her, You must go through me." He said. No one moved, no one dared. Their torches burned low, their courage slipping away. One by one they began to back away, muttering, their anger fading into silence. The crowd dissolved slowly, their footsteps fading into the night, until only the human, the girl, and the quiet crackle of the torches remained. The girl clung to the doorframe, her legs weak, her body shaking, but her eyes wide with awe. She whispered softly, "You stood for me." The human turned, his eyes softer now. "I told you," he said, "you are not dirt." Her tears flowed freely, not from pain, but from something she had never felt before. The warmth of being defended, the weight of being worth protecting. The torches died in the wind. The night grew quiet again, and though danger still lingered in the shadows, inside the girl's heart, a new strength was born, and as she looked at the human standing before her, unshaken against a village, she knew one truth: she was not alone anymore. The night was quiet after the crowd left. The torches burned out, the air heavy with smoke and silence. The human stood at the doorway, watching the empty path where the villagers had once shouted. His body steady, his eyes calm. Behind him, the alien girl leaned against the wall, her thin frame shaking, her eyes wide with tears. She could not believe what had just happened. For the first time in her life, someone had stood before her. Someone had shielded her. Someone had called her life worth more than dirt. She whispered, softly, her voice trembling, "They hate you now. They will never stop. They will make you suffer." The human turned, his eyes meeting hers, steady and unshaken. "Then let them hate," he said, his voice calm like a stone in a storm. "I will not throw you away." Her lips trembled. She lowered her gaze. "Why?" she asked again. The question that had haunted her since the market. "Why me? Why would you care for someone like me?" He stepped closer, his hand gentle as he helped her sit on the bed again. "Because you are not someone like you think," he answered. "You are alive, and that is enough reason." The girl's chest tightened. Tears ran down her cheeks. She covered her face with her hands, sobbing quietly, not from pain, but from the heavy weight of kindness she could not understand. The human said nothing. He only sat near her, letting the silence hold her. Days passed. The whispers of the villagers never faded, but none dared to confront the human again. Some avoided his shelter. Others muttered insults when they passed, but they stayed away. Fear mixed with their hate inside the shelter. Life slowly began to return to the girl. Her strength grew as she ate, as she drank, as she rested. Her eyes that once stared only at the dirt now lifted to look at the fire, at the walls, at the human who had become her shield. One morning, she stepped outside for the first time without trembling. The air was cool, the sun low, the ground warm beneath her bare feet. She looked around nervously, afraid of eyes watching, but no one came. No stones, no cruel laughter, only silence. The human stood nearby, his arms folded, watching her carefully, ready to step forward if danger came. But he did not speak. He let her take those steps on her own. Her lips parted. A faint smile touched them, fragile but real. She whispered, "I thought I would never stand again." He nodded slowly. "Now you do," he said. Every day after, she grew stronger, her voice steadier, her steps firmer. She still heard whispers when villagers passed by, still saw their eyes filled with hate, but she no longer bent under their weight. One evening, as the fire glowed in the shelter, she spoke quietly. "When they mocked me, I believed them. I thought I was nothing. I thought I was dirt, but you." She paused, her voice shaking. "You made me see I am more." The human looked at her, his eyes soft. "You always were more," he said. "They just refused to see it." Her heart swelled, tears returned, but they were not the same tears. Of weakness, they were tears of something new hope. The days turned to weeks. The villagers kept their distance, fear keeping their anger low. The human continued his life, working, trading, but always returning to the shelter where she waited, where safety grew, one night. As the stars filled the sky, the girl stepped outside again. She looked up at the endless dark, filled with light. Her voice soft. I used to dream of leaving this place, of running far away. But now? She turned her eyes to him. Now, I don't dream of leaving. I dream of living. The human nodded, his gaze also lifting to the stars. Then live, he said. Her lips curved into a true smile. Small but glowing, she stepped closer, standing beside him, their shoulders almost touching. The silence between them no longer heavy with fear, but filled with quiet peace. The whispers of the village still existed. They would not vanish overnight, but something stronger now lived inside her. A truth no crowd could erase. She was not dirt, she was not worthless. She was alive, and someone had proven it with action. With defiance, with protection, the human glanced at her. Her eyes bright in the firelight of the stars. He felt a quiet certainty inside. He had changed her fate, but in truth, she had changed his as well, reminding him why he carried kindness, why he defied cruelty, why humanity must never turn away. The girl took a deep breath, her voice clear for the first time. I want to live, she said, the words carrying through the night like a vow. And the human answered without hesitation, his voice steady, then you will, in that moment. Standing together against a world that had laughed at her, mocked her, starved her, they began something new, something no whisper of anger could break. A story of survival, of kindness, of defiance, of hope, a new beginning.